So, hello there, welcome. This is me again, hi. I apparently don't have the mental capacity to make an intro today. But anyway, today I want to talk about another piece of Minion tech. Well, it's not necessarily Minion tech, but it works for minions, so I'm gonna call it Minion tech that I wasn't actually aware of. Because it's Nourish of all things, yes, the ooh stomp. Normally, you get Nourish for vital priming, so that when enemies hit you or you hit them, they get vital procs on them. Well, turns out, and this is the part that I did not know, this works for summoned allies as well. Now, if you've never used the subsumed version of Nourish, it's a slightly toned down version of it. There is no feasting component. You press the button, you do the ooh stomp, and you get the buff, the end. However, if you ooh on a frame like Caliban, and you have the boys summoned, they get the buff as well, making them proc vital with their attacks, but also trigger the Nourish explosion when they're hit. This gives you very solid vital priming because the boys will just carpet bomb the entire room with vital, which then gives them, and you of course, more damage. This then allows you, just like when you're running Nourish normally, to switch your pet away from priming vital and either prime something else or just do very good damage. So here we have an example of what Harold and the boys can do with Nourish. One thing you will notice is that the damage is quite high, with these being level 190 Grenier in Steel Path. Harold can basically one-shot them once they're primed. And speaking of priming, that's the second thing you will notice, it is absolutely absurd. Because Caliban's ranged boys proc Tau on the enemy, and Tau is a status effect that's kind of like Puncture but for status. It makes the enemies more susceptible to status effects. So the second they get hit by your pet, or you, I suppose, they get a bajillion status effects on them. This can be made even more ridiculous if you combine it with a Theorem Infection Arcane and a Residual Arcane on a Kid Gun, which can give your pets and summoned companions up to 360% bonus damage, which on top of the Nourish and everything else makes them go absolutely berserk. They'll be able to decimate Steel Path on their own. Now, an alternative here, if you want to have as many pets as possible, would be to actually subsume Inaros' Desiccation, because if you do that, that's his first ability by the way, the Pocket Sand, if you do that, you can run the Augment, Desiccation's Curse, which on a finisher spawns a Sand Cavat. So if you were to put this on Caliban, you would have 3 boys, a pet, and then 2 Sand Cavats. If you're gonna do that, by the way, you can completely remove Armor Strip from your pet, and you should probably keep it on Vital Priming as well, because the Sand Cavats will proc Scarab Swarm, which will strip the enemy's armor via corrosive procs. I very much prefer Nourish though, because it's much less faffing around, and it's very easy to keep up as well. You don't really have to keep track of anything, because Lethal Progeny, which is the ability that summons the boys on Caliban, lasts roughly about twice as long as Nourish. So you cast Nourish once when you summon the boys, and then again about halfway through. Now, which ability should you replace on Caliban? I went with Razor Gyre, because it's the one that I use the least. It's a nice tool to move around, but since I have positive efficiency and I run Energy Siphon to sustain my energy, I don't need it for the energy generation. And I'm not too fussed about losing the dash. I have more than enough mobility because, well, this is Warframe. So, if you're a fan of minions, I would highly recommend you try this out, because this is one of the very few builds that actually feels like a minion build, because the boys and the pets, and I say pets because you need to run Duplex Bond with this. Duplex Bond is going to skyrocket your DPS because, well, you're gonna have more pets, are going to carry you through Steel Path on their own. For some people, I imagine this is going to be quite boring because a lot of the damage isn't being done by you, but your pets instead. Though with that said, it's not like you have nothing to do here. You need to keep up Lethal Progeny, you need to keep up Nourish, and if you want to maximize the usage of Duplex Bond, you need to keep casting abilities to consume energy to spawn extra pets. Plus, if you're using Theorem Infection to buff your boys, you need to keep getting kills with your Kid Gun to spawn the residual zones, which then grant you and your boys the buff. So while it might not be the most complex of setups, it's actually quite active and it's a lot of fun to play around with. And that is pretty much all I wanted to say, so I thank you very much for watching, as always guys, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Then I would also like to extend a special thank you to all the channel members. Thank you very much guys, I really appreciate your support, it means a lot to me. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.